thought process I was talking about before, because you know it's only going to get you wins for a week. So is it worth it? And for so far, it's been no.
Well, while we're getting ready for the next game of this series, we can take a look at the global progress for our cheer. You guys can support your favorite teams by cheering in Twitch chat for them, even unlock some items like these. We are rounding out 15 million. We hit that during the European broadcast. And this program has been really cool to see it be installed and stated. I got to log in and check out all of the items, and they are ridiculously awesome.
No, I enjoy them a lot. It's more fun because then I can always, like, you know, throw, like, if I get to play a character and there's a pro who's really popular at that one, I like end up using their spray and throwing it in their face. It makes me feel like, you know, if I'm on Gul'dan, I get to be Mene, right? Or if I'm playing the Gray Man, I get to be Hankona. I get to choose who I am. Now I get to throw it on spray.
Yeah, I saw Tetcher doing that, and he was tweeting people like, hey, you can let me know who you think totally exemplifies your team, and I'll get that all set up. But he did that with Misaka's Stitches for SPT, and I think that fits very well. Game number 4 will be taking place on Cursed Hollow, chosen by LagF.
Okay.
That's the most
confident thing you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yes.
Throwing it down. All right.
No. L5 picking Tomb against MVP Black in the grand finals. But this is after. It's like just after.
Just scotch down.
1-2.
Man, this is going to be awesome for what is a game point match with having LagF leading it, and then that they're willing to pick the second most prioritized map for Space Station Gaming, one of the highest that they have across the board. And it doesn't necessarily play into their play styles in the past. It just is like, we've got this. It's done. What it screams to me is Abathur. Like, just do not let that go through. Stop letting that be a thing. I don't know if anybody's looked at Abathur's stats recently, but he's pretty much just been bodying any game that he's in. I mean, understandably so. He does the best of both worlds. He team fights and he globals. I mean, can't really turn down that.
Yeah, and he's soaking the whole time. Abathur, Issue. I can't believe that they have picked Cursed Hollow versus Space Station. The implications of this match, we had a lot of questions about Space Station. They worked really hard in their boot camp, but even with that, they were starting to fall off quite a bit at the end of part 1, and they were one series win away from being a team that represented North America at the Western Clash. They want to be in those top teams in contention for BlizzCon spots, for playoffs, potentially the top 2, so that they can just auto-qualify for BlizzCon, but man, LagF, they're not making it easy for them. And LagF, they need these victories because they don't want to go through another Crucible.
And the biggest thing for LagF is I don't honestly know, I don't think this is the case, that their mentality is going to be, if you were to project your tournament life for Phase 2 Part 2, which teams are the absolute must-wins, which ones are the nice wins, and which ones are the coin toss? This is in the coin toss category. This is a series that was in the, this would be so much better for our chances to avoid the Crucible if we can find this win here. Obviously, the ones against the competitors at that lower 3, even in Death and Superstars. I almost forgot Superstars exist now that I've been saying Space Station and mixing those up all day. But either way, yeah, those two teams, those are your must-wins. But this is right at the brink of like exactly a dream scenario to be able to recover. I just, everything about this right now is just insane that this is the start to part number 2.
Does throw into question what the rest of part 2 will be like, especially because part 1 already was so confusing in a lot of ways.
It's only gotten weirder. Since HGC has formed, it has only gotten more wild and more dramatic as time's gone on. Like, the most stable and constructed, you know, expected things were all Phase 1, Part 1. And as it's moved on, it's like, oh, that's a little weird. And you're like, okay, we're really going the rabbit hole now. And then it turns out there's just no bottom at this point.
Wow.
High Tyrael value, respect that, coming out from Space Station.
No, it's the Protect the Gray main that I love.
It's got to be Wiz and Duelist now, right?
Yes. If you take it versus, what was that, a Genji? Yeah. Genji, Dahaka, Gul'dan.
Yeah.
If you're taking it then, you are surely taking it now.
It's going to be the all-in Gray main strategy. An old school one, but it's not rounded out completely yet. They still need a backliner, ideally one that can enable the Gray main to go off, do his thing. Lunara is the first thing that kind of comes to mind to be able to help those melees. But you can make up for it through things like Double Warrior instead. It doesn't always have to be your backliner, and Arthas is another really great hero to be able to present And those are things Lag Force has to be considering here with this secondary ban.
Global, a huge pick for Space Station. It has been, especially for Jason playing either Dahaka or Falstad. It's going to enable them to control the fights a lot more with Gus too.
Oh, thank you.
But
okay.
the change.
Yeah, okay, so I was just going to talk about why that Falstad ban is a little risky. It's mainly because we already know there's the team fight of Space Station. They've already told us. We know what we can expect. It is going to be a Sanctification Deathball strategy, and there's almost no variation. The only other variation you can do is a Judgment all-in composition. Both ways, it just stopped the momentum. They're struggling in macro. Concentrate on that. Falstad, not only beautiful counter momentum and team fights, granted, it's a weird interaction with Sanctification. It's a bit of a who pulls the trigger first scenario, but more importantly, a double global into an all-in composition that needs team fights can really dance and macro on the map really well. So I feel like not banning that, now I really want Lag Force to pick that up for themselves, and it can stop a lot of what Space Station Gaming has made happen so far with the first 3 picks.
Space Station are at least going to take out Medivh so that there isn't that kind of counter momentum. No ley lines to stop when they want to deathball in. No force of will to slow things down, reduce the damage from crucially when Greymane goes in. If Lag F is going to get Falstad here, we're still waiting on a Zuna hero. A new Barak still up to. They're going to get Falstad and Lunara.
Falstad and Lunara leaving a main warrior still available for them, so they're running a double backline, nothing too wild, a pretty solid disengage. Lunara with AoE damage, which is going to be very effective into Space Station Gaming as long as Sanctification's not online. It is a little scary though. Both of those heroes are relying on their heroic to not be vulnerable, especially Lunara, to be able to survive, and Rhaegar can't Ancestral 2 targets. There isn't enough cross-supporting for that double backliner, the way that they've transitioned, to be overly outstanding, I feel like, for me, and add the weight that they hold into this draft. But Space Station, it's now a bit more of a skill matchup. They have to be very effective, and I just want to point out the biggest thing that we talked about is they need to win team fights. They've been unable to do so through the series, but more importantly, their communication. This is one of the highest communication-oriented drafts that exists in, I'm going to say, almost all competitive Heroes of the Storm, to run it at a top level. And it's only getting harder as we're going down the mosh pit, holy cow style. I mean,
Death ball.
I'm not against it. It's just, holy cow, does this have some serious, have some serious dependency on teamwork, which has not necessarily been displayed thoroughly here by Space Station. Not what we experienced from Phase 2 Part 1 in weeks 1 and 2. But the double backline is vulnerable. It really is. If they had only picked the Falstad, I say they'd be fine. But now that we have Falstad and Lunar, she's not necessarily that okay. If Ancestral or any too many amount of resources have to be committed there, whatever this last pick is, should be dead.
What warrior do you want for Zuna?
Nah, I was going to say not the Anubarak or Diablo, but I feel like Anubarak probably makes the most amount of sense more than Diablo. I'm trying to figure out if there is a frontliner that meets the parameters that I want. The only thing that would come to mind is Arthas. To be able to help peel better onto your backline. And you already have the Dahaka, so you aren't going to be the only threat to deal with. It's a nice soft counter to the mobility provided by the Tyrael. But in the end, I feel like Arthas or Anub are really kind of the only options there, so I don't hate the Anub. And he's got really good counter momentum, too. It's a point and click, too. So it's a little bit more reliable there with the Cocoon. In the end, I'm on Lag Force right here. I'm on the hype train. Like, I love the comp of Space Station. Like, if you told me to erase the names, I am all over Space Station composition. I think if ran on the same tier, like, it is just going to be in your face, and you're just like, how do we lose this game? You just have no way to be able to deal with it. But they haven't shown that they've been on the same page at almost any point really throughout today, other than, at least not in team fighting. This comp has to team fight, and it has to be on the same page in team fights. So it's really Lag Force's game to lose.
Although I started out and said there's no way we don't have Wizened Duelist here, as the draft developed and Genji was brought in, I could still see a world now where this is more of a backline Greymane who's focusing more on his cocktails.
If they do that, I am a little bit concerned about the threat that will apply to the backline, though, right? I talked about the going into a double backliner with a Falstad and the vulnerability of the targets with only the Ancestral Healing to keep them alive. If you don't go into the Wiz and Duelist, you don't have enough initial burst to be able to make sure you exploit the weakness of the backline. You need to one-shot them. Like, that is the whole core of this composition, is like, when I hit R and the smite goes down on the ground, Eldruins is followed up on, somebody's going down. And so I feel like if they don't go into the Wizen, they'll have too little damage, and then suddenly the double backline isn't too big of a risk.
Can Space Station tie up the series once again and send us into game number 5? We find out now.
In the blue, it's going to be Lag F here. Zuna is going to be on the Anubarak. We have Tomster playing himself a Rhaegar. Big Impact going to be on that Lunara, talking about his positioning, keep an eye on him. And we have B-Kid here, rounded out on that Dahaka, Falstad on, or iDream on Falstad, as always. It turns out Falstad is not on iDream. That'd be a weird situation. Space
Station Gaming. We had Tiger JK playing the Uther. Greymane played by Jason. Casanova will be playing ETC. Equinox playing that Tyrael. We'll need those two to have the synergy between each other. And finally, Genji will be played by Talking Trees.
That ETC skin, man. He looks tough.
L900.
L900? Is that the name of it?
Level 900, yeah.
Yeah?
Or no, level 800, I think it is. He's working toward 900. It's level something, and it's up there. It's not over 9,000 yet, but it's close.
I was just going to ask what happens when he reaches 9,000.
He just explodes.
He just actually explodes into a beautiful, delicious steak dinner. I'm down.
Are you hungry? Do you need a snack after this?
Yeah.
We found out now.
So far for the laning decision-making, looks like it's a bit more of mobile defense coming up from Space Station, trying to stop the bleeding here. Big Impact caught out with that power slide, but Zuna's there with 3-man CC back-to-back. Now Jason has to second-guess himself. Tomster unable to find the kill, but Casanova should be going down. No! Good use of his E there, and more importantly, the power slide away.
Yeah, the change-up for ETC with Rockstar no longer giving attack speed and now giving armor. It's taken a while for Warrior players to want to start bringing him in, but seeing him more at the Western Clash, the European Warriors, letting us know that he is back, and it makes sense. Breeze, any chance that he'd be able to play ETC and make it work, he would.
Oh, big flank here. Big Impact actually didn't dodge the power slide there. He actually walked right into it. Beautiful job here coming out from Space Station Gaming. They're fighting back here in game number 4.
They are. They brought someone up from the mids. They need to send someone back to that, but they get the double kill up in the top lane. Still, though, they're losing out on a lot of pressure in that lane. They had to come up and make something happen to that because of how hard Lag Force been pushing that lane.
And that element right there is exactly when I was talking about the secondary advantage of the Falstad, the double global. What they're doing right now is what they have to do for the entire game. And right now, the death timers and the map isn't open enough for it to be relevant, but at level 13 and 14, 15, when that goes on, if that double Falstad Dahaka is getting pressure somewhere onto the map and there isn't a boss to be paid attention to or maybe a direct curse value, Lag Force could be sitting pretty at those stages of the game. But Space Station, they have an amazing initiation in their composition. It's just whether or not they get it in unison. Again, their teamwork has to be there in this game.
It may not be Equinox, but we are still 100% going Honkono status with Greymane. This time even getting Insatiable for some mana regen from Inner Beast attacks. Look for Wizen Duelist to come online at level 7, and after that, Jason's going to need the supporting of the team, the armor that Tiger JK can give, the peeling of Casanova, body blocks from the double warrior to make sure that he can keep those stacks going. It is... Honkono said it is scary to build into this build because it is very all or nothing. You have to start building it right out of the gates at level 1.
Tribute channel has been started here for Space Station Gaming, or excuse me, for Lag Force a couple times, but Trees is doing his best to be able to get those interrupts. With the Dahaka on top, the Giants on top, and Ethereal is the only thing to be able to stop it. Lag Force, if they win this Tribute, this is just, again, the Abathur's composition, where they're winning all areas where they shouldn't be winning altogether. Nice power slide here. The punishment's going to be real immediately. Lunara's just blown right on up. iDream, though, with no barrel roll available, he is going to live victim as well.
Great deflect timing from that, and excellent timing from Facemount, holding that out until Lunara started to try to move back to safety. Once again, power slide, this time hitting Zuna. for the rest of the team, making sure that they can get the first tribute of the game going to Space Station, and they're climbing ahead in kills, maybe for the first time this series.
Yeah, right now they're doing a very good job, and they did get a lot of value though up on top because of the lane mismatch, so it's not like Lag Force is too far behind in this game. It's just going to be, I mean, every power slide I think we've witnessed personally on screen 5, and every single one is going towards big impact. I talked about it, it needs to be focused on throughout this game, because if we see ETC in power slide position as frequently as he has been for the first 4 minutes and 20 seconds of this game, this is going to be a tough one for Lag Force. Falstad is going to be gusting left and right to save people up, or Tomster has to have essentially the cleanse of the century.
And Pinball Wizard only adds to the burst damage now that Space Station can apply on that initial target when they dive in, likely to be on big impact on the Lunara. Things will change though with heroic abilities, not only the Gust, but potentially Leaping Strike too, to try to help maybe, although it just depends where the power slide location goes in. If power slide goes behind, then maybe try to Leaping Strike over that, but then again, if the burst is there from Space Station, Biggie may not even ever get the chance to use it.
Space Station forfeiting that tribute up onto the top half of the map, I don't feel like is necessarily a misplay by any means, but I feel as if they didn't get as much out of it as they could. They have a Tyrael Genji composition, which is some of the best delayers that really kind of exist between Haragic Reforging and then Genji having the triple shuriken. The reload system on Genji shuriken makes it one of the best delayed flat out period, and the mobility that both of them provide. So I feel like they could have stalled it out and maybe looked for a bit more of an advantage with the laning mismatches that they had. But in the end, it just shows that they're, you know, comfortable being slower in how they progress through this game, that they want to find themselves at level 10, knowing that their comp really is just on another level when they hit that heroic mark.
Both teams picking up Siege Giants, but Tyrael and Uther are already in place, pushing that bottom lane as best as they can. Granted, it's a Tyrael Uther, but they do get the minion wave to go up, and as Jason joins them and go into Worgen form and start using that additional attack damage to siege it down, Giants not quite here yet. Meanwhile, it's ETC up in the top to deal with that.
That was close. Trees, I don't know if he had the swift strike up, but if he did, that was very close to iDream going down. Luckily, though, he will be able to back. But with this positioning of the Giants on bottom, the upper hand of Siege and the 10, there's no way that any members of Lag Force can stop that tribute, but more importantly, can't stop Jason going for the throw on Lunara. Big impact going down once more in this game.
There was the go for the throw in action. We've still got Wiz and Duelist stacks climbing for the teams. Space Station taking out their first fort, being able to deal. Uh-oh.
He makes it.
He's okay.
It turns out if you end up if not able to get the E over the wall, nobody expects you not to get it, that it's just as good, you know? Today I learned. But what I wanted to bring up here is that is now the third death for Lunara and Big Impact. He's about to hit 10. And he goes Thornwood. He's still willing to take the risk of the Thornwood going into the double backline and into the Deathball composition. This is putting, I talked about the pressure on the Falstad, it just keeps getting more and more severe with the talent choices we see out of Lag Force. But hey, trusting your teammates is about the first step to getting better. Competitive Heroes of the Storm is such a teamwork-focused game.
Falstad and Rhaegar. Once he gets Earth Shield, maybe it'll help a little bit, but trying to Ancestral through that amount of burst, you gotta just anticipate that the jump is coming in on Lunara, and then if you're going to hit it, just hit it.
Honestly, the only way I feel like you actually could react to that is your indicator would have to be Tyrael. So when you see the Eldruin onto the ground, just anytime your kill potential squishy is within that threat range, and you see him follow up, just immediate Ancestral. That's the only way. If Greymane is within area. Either way, this is a curse point for Space Station Gaming, not a talent tier up, but they get the power slide onto Zuna. Pro charge away, Drag's going to land, they're on to ETC. Casanova ended up not using his heroic yet. Beautiful Ancestral for Lag Force, but Sanctification not getting the value that Space Station wanted. And now iDream's here. Keep in mind, they have every heroic except Ancestral available on the side of Lag Force.
Space Station still have their Mosh Pit, and they still have Divine Shield and Hand of Protection, so there is a possibility for that if Lag Force goes into a choke like that.
Mosh.
Casanova goes in, Mosh drops down, but it's cleansed out, and it was only on Zuna. Trees going into the Dragon Blade, starting to bring down the health bars, but they just can't keep ETC alive. There's the first kill of the fight. Everyone else in the back, very low for LagF.
And there is a lot of kills coming through for Jason there, once again finding himself the go for the throat. Jason, though, is getting a beautiful job getting the kite around, the pre-cleanse even being used to ensure his safety, and with brilliant teamwork here, Space Station Gaming, in fact, is going to find themselves the first curse of the game. I was going to say, not like this, please don't cap, but they do wait it out, let everybody back, and they get the channel later.
Boss still a little bit of health remaining, pushing toward that bottom lane, but it'll be dealt with by the towers. And both traded out a fort each with their bosses during the time when they were posturing around the tributes, which means that Space Station is still ahead in the structures, and they're about to get even further ahead as long as they can utilize this curse. What can LagForce do to stop them? They don't have 13 just yet.
They're really, honestly, okay with running a 1-3-1 defensively onto this because they have the double global. The biggest thing here is just going to be if they get to the point of the front wall breaking onto this keep, backing out, responding to it. Just without the 13 talents here, it's very unrealistic to make anything happen. Genji even going up, being able to zone off, getting vision, forcing iDream to transition on down to mid.
Yeah, I wondered with so many heroic abilities down if we would see, once the curse was over, trying to gust the members of Space Station into a fight around the keep. But Space Station are staying fairly safe, and the fly already came in earlier for Falstad. So LagF just going to defend, make sure that they're keeping up with the lane soak. They still have one tribute of their own, so they can work toward getting a curse later on in this game. One
curse down and 3 forts is a pretty nice situation to find yourself in. That is, if you're going to, you know, paint the map on how you want to be able to play Cursed Hollow flowing through. I feel like Space Station Gaming is about right where they could expect, but they have to respect the double global of LagForce. That is going to be the tool that they are going to rely on to try and make up for the experience disadvantage. And most importantly is if one of the next 3 tributes, as long as just one or heavy delay is focused on the side of LagForce, they could actually even turn around the experience, even with this level deficit, because there's just no soaking capabilities on the side of Space Station whatsoever. It's either they're team fighting or they're not.
Space Station were hoping they could team fight by catching out Zuna. But yet again, he makes a miraculous burrow charge to get away back to his team. Space Station is just, because they don't have the same global capabilities of LagForce, seeing if they can shark around and catch any of them out while splitting up in a 2-3 so that they can still at least be able to soak in a couple of different lanes and work their way towards 16. We've got top boss in 51 seconds and the bottom boss not far behind that.
It's really just about delay in time. I feel like for the most part here on the side of LagForce, they will be able to catch up in experience as long as they are okay with giving certain things up. Top boss might have to be one of the things on that list, and if Space Station Gaming focuses on any objective with the 16 talents here, it's probably going to be top boss is the most valuable, even if they don't go for it, just solely because if they do get that fight, they obviously should win, and if they don't get the fight, they have a 16 advantage still under a small window with this 15 to 16 that LagForce would have to take on, but in the end, it looks like they're very comfortable playing the slower stages of this, waiting out the experience and letting the double global return the balance of experience. They aren't even going to have to lay out the tributes anymore. With how long this tribute spawn took, they don't even have to stall. They can give up everything, wait for the 16. But LagForce cannot fail with the fight that is going to be most likely 18.5 into 20.
Man, LagForce went up to the top knowing that that boss was about to respawn and seeing that Genji had been up there, but with the tribute spawning, Genji already had started to head down. Now the rest are working on the boss while they pick up that tribute. And without having 16, LagForce cannot contest this yet. They need 16 before that. They're just going to head up and hope that they can boss trade, but they're just now starting that top boss.
I don't think they're going to be able to get to it in time. With how fast this boss has been picked up, nobody on the side of Space Station, though, did make the transition over, and they are not even going to waste any time. They just say, well, if you are on our boss, we are going to take the race. We're going to make sure this thing counts. Very good decision-making coming out from them, getting all they can. just how much beyond the keep wall do we see restored? Because Lag Force is still clawing their way for the 16 talent tier, and you know that they're going to be backing after this boss.
Well, there's a fort that is standing in the way of that boss, so there's no hope in trying to just race versus that. The rest come in, no 16 yet, but Tahaka's still up in the top. Space Station putting on a lot of damage, taking out the well, working on the keep, bringing down the keep, but the Gust pushing in the members of Space Station.
Zuna trying to make it happen there, but not getting the CC he wants. Ancestral does end up going off. The knockback from Casanova is not enough. iDream under pressure, getting the Dragon Blade up in his face. Not enough mana. He does. The Dragon... Oh, wow! The mosh pit onto the other side from Casanova, actually catching off one. Nobody's gone down. The two-man power slide on in. Zuna keeps himself alive. Trees doesn't even get the reset, dropping the deflect. Divine Shield used. Gilly, this is the fight of the century going on in front of us. And in the end of it all, it's 2 for 3. iDream comes back.
He flies in. Tree's in trouble. Hammering doesn't catch him, though. He runs away. Tiger JK will be brought down, but he's going to make Lag F work for that kill, at least, running back into the towers.
Oh,
that
man.
got nuts. But
what was going on? That was...
Well, first there was a mosh and then a sink on the other side of it, but it didn't overlap. And then there was just such a long time where they were trying forever to take out Zuna. Watch this. They're trying forever to take out Zuna. They get close, but then Ancestral gives him that next health bar. They bust Trees out so they can start Dragon Blade, but members are getting pretty low, and then they've got like the cleanse and the sink. They jump back in, trying again to go after Zuna. They just can't take him out. Some are fighting versus B-Kid. Then Trees goes in. Zuna still lives for a long time, and it just takes them so long to take him out that everyone else with Lunara, those elongated fights is a problem.
Zuna's pulling the bad Benny there, man. On that Anu Barak, just getting the bait to the last HP and then finding a way to burrow charge away, survive. And in the end of the day, we find ourselves with Lag Force showing the first signs of life in this game in a long while, restoring the balance of the experience, but the biggest thing here is the lack of keep that they have on the bottom half of the map. Again, that double global is going to be a really good tool to rely on to be able to make sure those catapults aren't too effective. They are curse point. If this curse happens, Lag Force has to find a way to make sure they get a double keep, or at least one keep and possibly picks towards core.
One important and nice thing for Lag Force is that everyone on Space Station died except Genji, which means Greymane died, which means Wiz and Duelist stacks are gone. They no longer have to deal with that big spike in attack damage for Jason.
Equinox and Trees are on a different page, trying to catch out iDream there. That was not a trade that was up for them. Both of them falling below 50%. The drag used on the Casanova. Not going to gain anything yet. Passive use for Dahaka. Adaptation got to be dropped too. There's the heal. Thornwood Vine thrown out. The drag now onto Casanova, but not the target you want. Big impact there.
There it is. There it is. Sanctification and Mosh with the Dragon Blade behind it. And there it was.
And it's gone. And the members of Space Station Gaming want to nope right on out of here, realizing they no longer have a fight that is advantageous. Holy Ground Smite going to enable that one. And now Lag Force is going to find themselves the first curse for themselves. We have to keep in mind the Giants on bottom are alive. That will negate a lot of the value. So somebody has to go back and answer that. Looks like it'll be Dahaka.
Dahaka goes back. The rest charge forward. This is another time where Lag Force have gotten behind structurally, but were able to use the comeback experience from winning a team fight, and then after that taking down structures that were still available to get to 21st. So what can they make happen with it? There's no bosses off of the back of this. Still got a minute 10 and a minute 50 seconds until the bosses. So there is a possibility of retreating back off of that. But like you said, they need a keep. In the top one, that is the closest to going down. I
wanted to see a double keep pay from them, considering especially the experience that they find themselves up with here. They have a 20 advantage and no structures shooting at them, but they're afraid to kind of move up and make this happen. Equinox is all the way out there, and nobody really getting too much damage into it. There we go. The keep now ends up falling. 10 more seconds until the curse is going to end. So one keep is all she wrote. But with that 20 advantage, will we see Lag Force, that double backline we've been talking about, abuse the siege potential they have, or are they too afraid of the mosh pit and sanctification?
As long as iDream's position is good to be able to gust people away.
Nice holy ground.
Oof. He's the one who gets focused on by Space Station.
Not too much to be gained here. Another attempt from Equinox.
Lag F disengage, and Space Station's just about to hit 20.
But the boss It's going to be going for Lag F. They're going to pick this up right away. When it comes to boss control, we do have ourselves no continuous wins, not continuous wins, false heads.
Mighty Gust.
Wind tunnel. There we go.
Wind tunnel. Grief.
We're not going to have ourselves a wind tunnel. Holy ground is something we have to consider, but Tyrael is actually showing on mid, so Lag Force knows this is for pretty much free. Wait a minute. Casanova, does he get in? The Gust too early?
Nope.
No, Tyrael unable to make it through.
Yeah, BK did a good job. Now Zuna's going back into drag hits Jason, the one who has been caught. Cocoon goes down, and Space Station want to take that out before they get back into the fight. We've got level 20 with Genji, which means we've got the Dragon Becomes Me, but B-Kid's trying to drag him away from the rest of the fight so that Lag F can disengage. iDream is back. No Gust to disengage, but throws out a hammering, and between that and the poison of Lunara, Splintered Spear getting it done with the mosh!
He gets the 3-man mosh on the backline, but nobody able to get the kills. Jason goes in. There is going to be trees getting reset #1. Casanova on full retreat, but look at B-Kid! He is slaying them with beautiful positioning. The members of Space Station wish they were in space, because right now, Cursed Hollow is a death trap.
Everybody dead, except a Tyrael and Uther, who will come back with redemption. He even was hanging out, hoping that he could bait and keep Lag F from going along with their boss. This is a crucial moment. Space Station are down in this series. Equinox is lost. The boss knocking on this keep. Lag F stepping forward, disregarding the keep completely. They want the core dread. They want to win this series.
Disregard the Uther and stomp on towards the core. There is not going to be a long while towards any member of Superstars finding themselves back on, and Lag Force takes the series 3-1 over Space Station Gaming. One step closer out of Crucible range.
They can't let up. They can't let off the momentum, the gas pedal that they showed in this series, because as we saw in phase #1, just because you get a couple of victories, it does not get you out of the Crucible range. And for Naventic, who were at the very bottom, or were tied at the very bottom, they only won their one series versus Even in Death, they have to keep going. It takes so much effort to get out of the Crucible range. No Tomorrow experienced that last phase.
I mean, I think that is only kind of only showing the point that we often talk about consistency and how important that is. Like, consistency is, from my point of view, the most important thing on how good you are as a team. Because if you aren't consistent, then I actually only see highs and lows, so I don't know how good you actually are. Like, the minute you can show stability and I can rank that stability, that alone, huge selling point, right? And so, and again, what you can do to be able to gain off that and learn from that, it's just we need to see this consistent performance here from Lag Force and what they displayed here today if they're going to be able to make it happen. I completely agree. I think it's going to be still a tall tale for them, but you got to give credit where it's due, because today was absolutely amazing for them.
Yeah, I am so amazed at all of the things that Lag Force brought in. They still had their excellent team fighting, but they made a statement in their ability to control the battleground. They were drafting a lot of globals, and it was working out for them. It allowed them to stay in the game there. And in game #4, they were even picking Cursed Hollow versus Space Station Gaming, it's been a favorite of them. They've been able to beat some of the top teams in North America on that battleground because of their decision-making there. So the changes that Lag Force have brought in, please don't let up with that, Lag Force, because it was incredible play from all 5 members.
And looking at the other side of the coin, it's got to be an absolutely devastating series for Space Station Gaming. You just came off of a new orc. You know, there's a lot of hype behind that. More importantly, the boot camp that you had with the downtime, feeling like you've grown and gotten better. You had that small window of maybe greatness that was displayed, and it kind of whittled away over the later stages of part #1. And you're like, this is the moment. This is going to be into a team that you should assume you can take a win into. And more importantly, not only did you lose, it wasn't like that 3-2 final game. Every game could have gone either way. It was a rather, again, dominant performance. I cannot think of a single team fight like full 5-on-5 that's even footing where they won. And that has to be a heavy concern, because I hate to break it to you, but you got to actually win team fights if you're going to win the game.
And speaking of teams that you expect to win, that happened to them versus Even in Death in the last part, and they play versus Even in Death again on Sunday. So they have to go right back into another team that is down, and it should be expected for them, you would think, for Space Station to be able to win, but I'm pretty sure Even in Death doesn't look at it that way at all.
No, and the other thing you got to be looking at too is then, do we see the same role swap I'm going to put it to the role swap incident here, the one-off game that we saw from them, having Casanova away from that main warrior, which he learned intentionally for Equinox coming onto the roster, making that happen where they seem new and improved, and then going back to that for the one game. Does that show against Even in Death? If Even in Death comes out guns blazing, because let's be honest here, Even in Death, at least for me, probably one of the most consistently growing teams we have out of all of North America and HGC. They're the only ones that I rely on every week. They're going to play better than the one before it. So you got to be afraid for Space Station.
I almost think now, knowing and seeing how Space Station played in game number 4, that it was a Genji factor. Because Talking Trees, they had a Li Ming and a Genji. One of those is going to be Talking Trees. And in that instance, maybe the only person who feels like they can confidently play Li Ming is Trees, so that takes him off of the board. And then you have Dahaka, and whereas normally you would look at the role that Equinox has and say, no, he would play the Dahaka, it just seems like split soaking, like they have a designated solo laner, and that is Jason. And no matter if it's a melee, if it's a Dahaka, or if it's a Falstad, Jason is going to be the one who is playing that, which then maybe Casanova plays more Genji, and they just had to make the swap that way.
They aren't the only teams that are also making that weird adjustment. And a lot of it seems to be derived from communication, is really it. From a shot calling's role, most of the time that seems to be the melees in general for North America, and because it is on the melees, they're oftentimes the ones side-soaking into a lane, and you're like, well, I can't really tell you what's the best transition to be able to make when I literally can't look at your map. I'm too worried about, I don't know, not feeding and into the solo 1v1. And I'm not honestly sold on if it's a good or a bad thing in the long run. This is about the 4th iteration that we've seen where it's like we're going to flex roles for communication to not flex. And I always view it as, I mean, communication can be made up for with 5 people. It's not like one is the only one to rely on. So I feel like it is just such a surprising how common of a trend it is with the North American scene that we put this on one player to make that change rather than being like, well, I can't shot call from here, but you got 4 other guys. Like, hopefully they've learned a couple of things along the way. They should be able to generally get the tone, and then working with all of them, you know, in the spare time on those replays, be like, this is what I wanted to see from us. This is what we should be aiming for. And there's no downside to it. It just seems like the safe route, the easier route that we see a lot of teams going in North America, and I'm not convinced to see another one go down it.
Yeah, it seems like it's probably going to have just differing success for different teams. In this instance, we can't fault Lag Force for making the change that they made. Beakid has been the warrior for this team all year long, and all of a sudden we switch and we have Zuna playing warrior. And Beakid, if he's able to make that adjustment like that into that solo lane role, Zuna was popping off.
Yeah.
But let's check in with another person who was popping off. We've got Biggie on the phone. Hey, Biggie, congratulations. It was awesome to see you guys be able to take the victory over Space Station. Were you guys expecting that you'd be able to win this series over them?
I wouldn't say expecting, but I mean, we expect to win every game if we play well, so yeah, it just depends if we show up that day.
Well, we were talking a little bit about the role swap that you guys made that we saw at the end of the last part, and obviously you guys came out very strong at the beginning of part 2, so what do you attribute that new and improved strength to? Is it the amount of practice that you could put in over the break, or is it something else?
I'll be honest, we were having some issues, so we finally sorted it out, and it's been a lot better. We only had 2 blocks going into this first week, so it's surprising that we're doing so well, but everyone's remotivated, everyone's talking a lot, and we're just the meme team dream. The meme dream team.
All right, Dread. You take the meme dream team.
I'm going to be honest. There's no way I can follow up to that one, Biggie. But I appreciate you open up guns blazing here in the interview. Mine is just I want to know more about the feel. I feel like you guys have been through a lot, and even I kind of feel like I struggle sometimes to understand your guys' point of view and like where you feel like you are. So just going into part 2, what is the mentality? What's the general feel for your squad? Obviously, it's a bit more optimistic after hearing your first response, but I just want to know if you can get a bit more into what it means to be a part of former Naventic Lag F.
Basically, this is kind of like a new identity for us, and it's like we're finally applying ourselves to like practice, and we have like rules now, and we're following them. So it's like this is a comeback. This is a comeback.
You're willing to say it's a comeback?
Yeah.
All right, I'm ready for it.
Well, a really important part of that comeback is being able to defeat Superstars because they are very close to you and Even in Death in who ends up in the Crucible. So how confident are you guys versus Superstars? You're going to play them on Sunday. And can you let us know any insight into how that matchup's gonna go?
I mean, I'm pretty confident. Like I think they're using a sub for their first 2 weeks, I think. But going into it, I'm pretty confident. Just who has more cheese, and you saw one of ours today. Just we see who has more in their pockets.
Hey, don't store cheese in your pockets; it'll get moldy.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's kind of gross. My bad.
All right, Biggie, I'll let you give some shout-outs now.
All right. Shout out to my team. Shout out to Barco for coming back on a short notice, and shout outs to everyone for watching and cheering for us. Hope you guys buy the Lag Force emotes when they come out.
There you go. Cheer for Lag Force. Drop the beat. Thank you, Biggie.
Thank you.
Lag Force taking out Space Station Gaming. Gosh, that's got to feel good for them, especially if they feel like they've got a new identity.
Absolutely. It works both ways. You know, for Space Station, they feel like they have one, and it's crushed. In a series, they should be expected to win. On the other side, a team that feels like they have a new identity, a lot of things going for them, huge names, you know, on the roster that has just been struggling for so long, they get the win. You know, there's feels in both directions, but at the end, you know, I feel like Naventic very much deserved it, and it's nice to see, you know, especially Biggie, like, just even seem that positive and, like, be like, yeah, you know, it's the comeback. They believe in themselves, and that's something some teams I feel like you can see that they struggle to do that sometimes.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen Biggie give an interview before, so I was pretty pumped just that we got to see his awesome face. That closes out our first series, but we've got Team Freedom versus